Have you ever wondered how many invisible forces silently circulate within your home? How many seemingly harmless energies might be shaping your mood, your sleep, your peace, and even the balance among those who share the same roof? Sometimes, we believe the only enemies we face are external, people who don't understand us, work pressures, financial difficulties. But there's a much more subtle and perhaps more dangerous field hidden in the invisible layers of the space we inhabit. Edgar Cayce, the man known as the Sleeping Prophet, left precious clues about how energy manifests and how certain simple rituals can expose what the eyes don't see, but the soul feels. Imagine for a moment that your home is like a living temple. Every wall holds memories, every object accumulates intentions, every corner can retain fragments of joy or pain. When we enter an environment charged with conflict, even without hearing a word, we perceive a certain heaviness in our bodies, a restlessness as if something is pushing us out. In a place blessed by harmony, we feel the opposite, a lightness that envelops us like a silent embrace. These impressions are not random. They are clear signs that the energy of a space is real and profoundly influences us. But how do we recognize what is hidden? How do we perceive if there are invisible enemies within our home, subtle forms of imbalance that drain our vitality? Cayce taught us that nature, in its simplicity, has already given us the tools for this recognition. And this is where the so-called Vinegar Fire Test comes in, not as a vulgar superstition, but as a spiritual mirror that reflects hidden truth. Vinegar, a humble element, has always been linked to purification and the unveiling of what is corrupted. When placed before fire, it reacts in a singular way, revealing what does not belong to the field of harmony. Before that, however, it is necessary to understand that we are not talking about enemies like ghosts from dark tales, nor curses cast by human hands. The true hidden enemy is often the condensed energy of negative thoughts, past arguments, silent envy, or even old memories trapped in objects. Carl Jung said that everything that we do not face in ourselves returns as fate. Similarly, everything we do not purify in our space returns as tension, inexplicable conflicts, and a sense of heaviness that repeats day after day. Have you ever noticed how certain rooms seem more charged than others? Perhaps the living room where arguments have repeatedly occurred, or a bedroom where peaceful sleep never comes. It's no coincidence. The energy of the environment retains impressions, just as sand retains the marks of footsteps. And the more we ignore these signs, the more we allow invisible enemies to strengthen in silence. Cayce believed that spiritual life is not separate from daily life, and that even the simplest gestures, when done with awareness, become portals of revelation. The Vinegar Fire Test, therefore, is more than a practice. It is an invitation to confront what your intuition already senses. How many times have you entered your home and felt that something was wrong, even without a logical explanation? How many times has a feeling of anguish arisen without apparent reason, precisely within the walls that should protect your rest? Fire, a symbol of illuminating truth, and vinegar, an essence that dissolves the hidden, unite here as two guardians capable of unmasking the energy that hides in the corners of your life. It's not about magic, but about perception. The universe communicates through signs, and elements are messengers of this ancient language. Fire does not lie, it consumes, purifies, and reveals. Vinegar does not mask, its acidity exposes, brings to light what was disguised. When these two meet, it is as if a window opens, allowing us to see what was previously locked in the invisible. The curious thing is that many people resort to complex diagnoses to explain their discomfort: overwork, vitamin deficiency, modern stress. All of this is real, but sometimes it's just the surface. The true burden may be inside the home, in the space that should be your refuge. Cayce said that the soul is like a musical instrument, and that the environment where it rests can tune or detune it. A disharmonious home is like a room full of noise. No one can hear their own inner melody. So before understanding the ritual itself, the question that needs to echo is, are you willing to face the truth it can reveal? For it is not enough to know that there are hidden enemies. One must have the courage to dissolve them, to transform the space where you live into fertile ground for peace. There is no use in performing the test as if watching a curious spectacle. It requires presence, consciousness, intention, because what is revealed will not just be an external sign, but a reflection of what also dwells within you. Remember, the house is an extension of who you are. If it carries weight, it's because something in you also asks for liberation. If it holds light, it's because there is harmony within you. The vinegar and fire test is not a magic solution, but a starting point, a symbolic gesture that opens the eyes to a greater spiritual reality. And when the truth comes to light, there is no turning back. Thus, before learning the step-by-step of what Cayce suggested, close your eyes for a moment and ask yourself, am I prepared to know what my house silently holds? Am I ready to see beyond the surface and embrace the revelation that can transform my space into a sanctuary? Because the answer you give to this question will determine not only the value of the ritual, but the destiny of all the energy that circulates in the place where you rest. Cayce. Ove, cry and dream. If the first step is to recognize that subtle forces are acting within the home, the second is to understand how to deal with them wisely. Edgar Cayce always insisted that spiritual life is not made of complicated dogmas, but of simple practices, rooted in daily life. He said that spirituality is like air, invisible but essential, and that our actions, when guided by the correct intention, can even alter the density of the energies around us. The so-called Vinegar Fire Test should be viewed in this spirit. It's not about superstition, nor a trick to arouse empty curiosity. It is a symbolic way of bringing into consciousness what already vibrates in space, but remains beyond the reach of the eyes. Think of it as a spiritual mirror. When we look at ourselves in a common mirror, we see our external image. When we use this test, we look at the energetic reflection of the environment we inhabit. Why vinegar? Since ancient times, vinegar has been considered a purifier. The ancient Egyptians used it for cleansing. The Greeks believed it dissolved impurities, and even in Christian traditions, there are mentions of its use as an element of revelation and atonement. Vinegar contains the essence of transformation. It is wine that has turned acidic, joy that has passed through pain, sweetness that has converted into something that reveals. It reminds us that even what seems spoiled has a role in life's balance, for it is precisely through its acidity that it shows what was hidden. And why fire? Because fire is the great unmasker. It consumes masks, illuminates shadows, burns illusions. Heraclitus, the Greek philosopher, said that fire is the principle of all transformations, for in it everything is renewed. When we place vinegar before fire, we create a symbolic union between two opposing elements, the acidic water that reveals and the fire that purifies. And from this encounter, revelation is born, as if two guardians met to open a portal. Edgar Cayce saw the home as an extension of a person's auric field. For him, every object we bring inside, every word spoken within those walls, all of this is registered as an energetic echo. Think of it as the memory of a river. Even though the water is always flowing, the riverbed retains marks, stones, leaves, and traces of everything that has passed through it. Such is the energy of the house. If there have been arguments, resentments, hurts, this does not disappear with time. It remains impregnated, waiting to be dissolved. You might even notice there are homes where, upon entering, you immediately feel light, as if stepping into an open field of peace. In others, the sensation is the opposite, a weight in the chest, a desire to leave quickly. This contrast is not in the furniture, nor in the colors, but in the invisible vibration. The vinegar and fire test is a way to give body to this perception, to make visible what is usually only felt. But it is important to remember, the test itself does not eliminate negative energy. It only reveals it. It is like a lamp that turns on in a dark room. The light does not create the dirt. It only shows where it was. Many people believe that by performing the ritual, they are automatically expelling hidden enemies. But that is not the case. The test is diagnostic, not curative. It shows the state of the space, bringing to consciousness what needs attention. The cure will come from other gestures: prayer, harmonization, changes in habits, forgiveness, reconciliation. Cayce said that nothing can remain hidden forever. Sooner or later, the truth manifests, because the universe has the fundamental law of seeking balance. Just as water always seeks its level, energies seek harmony. When we perform the test, we are not just observing a chemical phenomenon, we are collaborating with this universal law, offering a symbolic means for the truth to reveal itself. Some may ask, but what exactly should I expect to see in the test? This question, though natural, already carries a risk, that of turning the ritual into a spectacle. The most important thing is not the form the fire will take, nor the intensity of the reaction, but the intention with which you stand before it. If the heart is anxious, wishing only to prove something from outside, you will lose the main lesson. The true gaze must be inward. What do I feel when witnessing this union between vinegar and fire? What memories, what thoughts, what emotions arise in me? For often the sign does not come from outside, but from the echo that the ritual awakens within us. Think of the ritual as a metaphor for life. Just as fire shows the reaction of vinegar, life shows our reactions to challenges. When someone hurts us, our response reveals who we truly are. When fate tests us, our reaction is the most faithful proof of our soul. The test then is also a reminder, hidden energy is not just in the walls, but in our hearts. And if we want to purify the house, we must first purify ourselves. It is curious how spiritual traditions around the world converge on this point. In Japan, there is talk of kagare, energetic impurity that needs to be dissolved through purification rituals. In indigenous traditions, fire and smoke are used to reveal and ward off dense spirits. In Christianity, the flame is a symbol of the Holy Spirit that illuminates and dispels darkness. What Cayce brings, therefore, is not something isolated, but part of a universal wisdom. The idea that the elements of nature are not mere objects, but carriers of messages, keys that connect us with invisible dimensions. And perhaps this is the most important point, to understand that there is no separation between the visible and the invisible. Our home is not just brick and wood, it is also memory, energy, vibration. The air we breathe within it carries more than oxygen. It carries stories, words, intentions. When we perform the test, we are reminding ourselves that the invisible matters as much as the visible, and that caring for the home also means caring for the energetic currents that sustain it. Therefore, before learning how to perform the ritual in practice, it is essential to prepare your mind and heart. It's not just about lighting a flame before a liquid, it's about lighting a flame of consciousness within yourself. It is your presence, your intention, and your openness to the truth that transform the simple gesture into a portal of revelation. Now that your heart is prepared and your mind has opened to the possibility of looking beyond the surface, we can approach the gesture itself, not as one who executes a mechanical formula, but as one who enters a sacred temple where every movement is a silent prayer. Edgar Cayce believed that even the simplest acts, when imbued with intention, become instruments of transformation. So too should this ritual be. The first step involves neither fire nor vinegar, but you. You need to choose the moment wisely. Silence is always the best ally. If possible, perform it when the house is at rest. No noise, no distractions, no urgencies. Because the ritual is also a meeting with yourself. Before lighting the flame, breathe deeply, close your eyes, and feel your connection to the space. Silently ask, what does this home need to show me? This question is the key that opens the door of perception. Next, choose the place in the house where you feel the energy is densest, most charged. Perhaps it's a bedroom, perhaps the living room, perhaps even the kitchen. Trust your intuition. The body knows more than we imagine. Goosebumps, chills, a heavy feeling in the chest, or inexplicable discomfort are signs that dormant energy is concentrated there. It is at this point that the ritual should be performed, because it is there that the truth wishes to reveal itself. Then, prepare a small container with vinegar. It doesn't matter if it's expensive or rare. Simplicity is part of its strength. Cayce used to remind us that God does not manifest in luxury, but in the purity of the gesture. Place the container on a firm surface, and beside it, light a candle. The candle is more than a piece of wax. It is the representation of the inner flame, the divine spark that burns in every human being. As you light it, imagine that you are also lighting your own consciousness, and then slowly bring the container closer to the flame. Observe. Do not rush, do not force. Just allow the encounter to happen. The fire will touch the presence of the vinegar, and there the revealing dance will begin. What matters is not the visible spectacle, but what awakens in you as you contemplate it. Perhaps the fire will flicker, perhaps the flame will become uneven, perhaps the smell will change the environment. Each sign is a symbolic language, a warning of the invisible becoming palpable. It is fundamental to understand here. The ritual does not serve to fuel fear, but to awaken consciousness. If something appears restless, it does not mean your house is cursed. It merely means there are densities asking for dissolution, like accumulated dust that needs to be swept away. Fire and vinegar are not enemies. They are allies that reveal where spiritual cleansing needs to act. Cayce said that the spirit responds to the symbol. This means that the universe speaks to us through simple but profound signs. When the fire changes before the vinegar, it is as if it says, here is something that needs to be seen, cared for, worked on. And when it remains stable, it is as if it confirms, harmony already flourishes in this place. In both cases, the ritual fulfills its mission, to bring light to what was once shadow. But there is an even deeper point. The test not only reveals the energy of the space, but also the energy of the person performing it. If your heart is agitated, the flame will reflect that restlessness. If your mind is confused, the fire may seem unstable. It is as if the candle is a mirror, not only of the house but of the soul. Thus, the ritual also becomes an exercise in self-knowledge. By observing the fire, you observe yourself. Therefore, when performing the gesture, do not limit yourself to what happens externally. Observe within. What feelings arise? Fear, curiosity, peace. These reactions are part of the revelation. Perhaps you will realize that the densest energy is not only in the room but in memories you carry with you. In unresolved resentments, in pains, you have not allowed yourself to release. And this awareness is as valuable as any physical sign from the fire and vinegar. Some may ask, what if I discover that there are negative forces in my home? What should I do? Cayce's answer would be clear. Strengthen the inner light. For no shadow can withstand a steady flame. The ritual is not an end but an invitation. It shows where action is needed, but transformation will come from prayer, loving words, reconciliation, and changes in habits. Often, dense energy is the result of repeated arguments, constant criticism, lack of gratitude. If the environment has revealed imbalance, it is time to sow the opposite. Peace, respect, forgiveness. Think of your house as a garden. The vinegar and fire test is like a soil examination. It shows where the earth is dry, where roots cannot find space, but it does not plant the flower. That is your mission. Water the garden with love. Bring words of blessing. Cultivate beauty in the space. Only then will the hidden enemies dissolve, not through violent expulsion, but because they cease to find sustenance. And this is perhaps the most beautiful point of Cayce's teaching. Evil does not need to be fought with violence, but dissolved by the firm presence of good. When light grows, shadow simply disappears. The vinegar test is merely the alarm that awakens, the call that says, look here, it's time to light your light. If you do it sincerely, you will notice that the environment changes. The air feels lighter, breathing easier, even dreams more peaceful, because the house responds. Invisible energy is like the skin of a body. It feels touch, reacts to care, and when you care for it, it cares for you. At the end of the ritual, give thanks. No matter the result, give thanks for the revelation, for the awakening, for the opportunity to see beyond the visible. Extinguish the candle with reverence, as one who concludes a sacred conversation. The vinegar can be discarded, for it has fulfilled its purpose. The gesture of gratitude is the seal that transforms the simple act into a complete rite. And so, what seemed like just a test reveals itself as a journey, from the unknown to consciousness, from shadow to light, from fear to clarity. But the most important question remains. What will you do with the revelation you received? Revelation is not the end, but the beginning. The vinegar test before the fire fulfills its function by opening your eyes to what was hidden. But true transformation is born afterward, in how you choose to walk from that moment on, because it's no use just identifying the dust if we are not willing to clean the space. It's no use seeing the reflection in the mirror if we don't want to transform ourselves. Edgar Cayce always insisted, life is the application of the ideal. That is, it is not enough to understand spiritual theories. It is necessary to apply them in daily life. Has the ritual shown where energy is dense? Then daily practice must be to bring light, and this is done with small gestures. With every word spoken at home, you are sowing seeds. Seeds of peace or conflict, of gratitude or complaint, of harmony or discord. The home is nourished by what is spoken and thought there. Think of the flame you lit. It is not just an external fire, but a reminder of the inner light that burns within you. This light needs to be nourished. How? Through prayer, meditation, intentional silence, but also through simple attitudes, a sincere smile, a thank you before meals, a word of forgiveness. These are invisible candles that keep the home illuminated. And remember, hidden enemies are not necessarily external forces lurking. Often, they are merely reflections of unresolved emotions, stored resentments, repetitive thoughts of fear or scarcity. By performing the test, you not only reveal what is in the physical space, but also open a window to what still needs to be resolved within yourself. True liberation comes when you decide not only to purify the house, but also to purify the soul. Cayce reminds us that each person carries within them an energy field that intertwines with the environment. Thus, your presence can elevate or lower the vibration of the space. If you cultivate serenity, the house resonates serenity. If you cultivate anger, it echoes anger. This means that more than vinegar and fire, you yourself are the true test. The state of your house is often a reflection of the state of your soul. It is here that reflection becomes practice. After performing the ritual, ask yourself, what habits within this house need to be transformed? Perhaps it is the habit of arguing without listening, of accumulating objects that no longer make sense, of neglecting the cleanliness of the space or the heart. Each gesture of change is an act of expelling invisible enemies, not through combat, but through substitution. Shadow gives way when light grows. Imagine your house as fertile ground. The ritual revealed where the soil is dry, where life does not grow. It is up to you now to irrigate with love, sow with intention and care daily. A kind word can be like fresh water irrigating arid land. A gesture of reconciliation can be like the sun finally warming a seed, and little by little what seemed dead begins to flourish. Do not expect instant miracles. Energy transforms with consistency. Just as the body needs discipline to stay healthy, the house needs daily gestures to remain in harmony. Open the windows to the sun, allow the air to circulate, avoid accumulating what is no longer useful, and most importantly, cultivate joy. Joy is the music that purifies any space. And if, even after the ritual, you feel that something persists, do not fear. The persistence of shadow is a sign that light needs to be strengthened. Continue lighting candles. Continue praying. Continue speaking words of blessing. The environment, like the soul, becomes accustomed to the vibration it receives. If you continuously offer love, the space will learn to vibrate at that same frequency. The most beautiful thing is to realize that the test, deep down, is not just about the house, it is about you. It is about your courage to look at the invisible, to face the truth, to choose the light. Because every home is a reflection of the soul of those who inhabit it. By purifying your space, you also purify your journey. By revealing the hidden enemies outside, you find the opportunity to dissolve the hidden enemies within: fear, resentment, lack of faith. Thus, what seemed like just a simple ritual with vinegar and fire becomes a silent master. It teaches that spiritual life is in small gestures, that revelation is always waiting for those who are willing to look, and that true protection comes not from warding off external forces, but from strengthening the inner light until nothing can extinguish its flame. And when your house feels light, when the air seems clearer, when silence brings peace instead of heaviness, you will realize it was not the fire, it was not the vinegar. It was you. It was your intention, your presence, your decision to make your dwelling a living temple. Cayce said that every home can be an altar. Now you hold the key to transforming yours. So the final question that echoes is, what kind of energy do you wish to cultivate in your home from now on? Because in the end, the ritual not only reveals hidden enemies, it also reveals the hidden responsibility that has always been in your hands. May you choose to sow light, transform the invisible into blessing, and make the space where you live a reflection of the peace you desire for the world. And if this message has touched your heart, share in the comments what you felt, for your words can illuminate the path of other seekers. Subscribe to continue together on this journey of wisdom and spiritual practice, because every reflection is a flame, and when many flames unite, darkness simply disappears.